Well, hello, creatives, community, kind folks out there. This is RPG with DBJ, our third and final with a question mark. Um, Last page through review of the Invisible Sun RPG PDF form, the digital content that was released by Monty Cook Games. You'll be able to find links down below. I haven't put them in there yet, but I will after the video is done. But we're going to do a little summary so you really don't have to stick around. There are two previous reviews, 2 hours a piece. It's a lot of information and a lot to ask of people. So we're going to start out with a summary and then get into paging through, do a little live through, page through, just like the other two reviews of a lot of the GM tools, what the purpose of the GM is, what function do you serve, what gaming elements are there to help you run the game, and then we'll get into the setting and that kind of thing. So the first review, of course, was just to give you an update. The first review was about basically letting everyone know what the $99 PDF gives you, which are a ton of files. Pretty much it's a myth if someone says it's just one PDF. There's a lot of files, a lot to go through. The second one delves more, we delve more into character creation and the magic system, which is really involved. And today we're just going to do like a summary, basically wrap things up and look forward to trying to run this game online. I can see some difficulties in that, but yeah, we're going to try to run this online, see what's going on. I am going to slightly take a break here. I forgot to turn on my own chat, so I'm going to make sure that I get involved in here. All right. I forgot to turn on my own yep, there I go. Chat, so I'll make sure. There we go. Well, sorry about that, guys. Thought I had everything prepped. All right. So, summary of Invisible Sun RPG, the PDF. Well, initially, I understand why this game, Monty Cook really did not want to release this game in a digital format. It really is a premium item and comes with many handouts, cards, maps, all that kind of stuff. Basically, it is a role-playing game, but uses premium content that you would find in many of your high-end board games, which is why we have the $250 price tag as of this speaking, $252 American. If you go on his website for a pre-order to get the big black box. And I believe there are some new releases coming out, and each of the new releases in print format will also be premium, including books and cards to add to the game. But it absolutely positively is a premium item that you can place on your bookshelf or a coffee table and such. It really wants you to pull this out and play it around a table and have everyone immersed into what they're doing, and has so many handouts that each player can have their own book and cards and pre-generated characters and unique character sheets and such. So how does that translate into the digital format? Well, you're going to have to do some legwork to divvy up, divide up, and hand out the digital forms for your players. Now, sure, it might be as simple as, some people may not find it very difficult to cut and paste, to hand out, to give out handouts, whether it's pre-generated characters, letting your players make up characters by sending them the digital books and such. But you do get into a problem where the entire game, a player does not need the entire game to make up their character. But as a game master, you're going to need access to every one of those files at some point in your gaming path, gaming along the path of suns. And so just giving the digital book the key, which is the player, essentially it's the player generated book, they may not understand what's going on because you would also need to give them the digital file of, say, the cards if they want to play a Vance spellcaster or a Weaver, and so it gets a little bit intricate without being able to see some of the little nuggets, I guess, the little the handouts, the physical things that come in the game. Now, some of the tokens, there are tokens to hand out for when you essentially suffering damage, when you suffer effects, or even like enhancements or bonuses. So your character can become scourged or vexed. You gain despair and joy, and so there are tokens for that. For me, I find that you don't really need that online. I don't think you'll really need to have that at all. Basically, player trust is all you really need. So I wouldn't really go too far into that as far as like really absolutely needing to print out every token and such. But there are digital maps. You can attach digital maps to your online choice, whether it is Obsidian Portal or you're using you're using I don't know, Mythweavers, or you're using Google Docs or OneNote or something of that nature to hand it out to your other players so that they have access to it. I think one of the problems will be, and this is unfortunate, but it's a truth. Players tend not to want to read a lot of things, and there will be a lot of digital handouts, and without that distinction between cards and boards and tokens and pre-generated characters or blank character sheets and the book to go through things in a digital format, some people might find that it's just one flood of information as opposed to being different and separate and tactile elements of the game. And so depending on how much time your players are willing to invest in investing into the game, they may not want to read, 150-page book, 130-page book, plus, go through 40 cards before they pick out their particular spells, plus go through. It's just, I find that you're going to have a problem with that. So in summary, let's go through the things that I dislike about the game. The things I dislike about the game are just the limitations of the digital format, and that is basically having to do, and you're going to have to do this anyway with any PDF style game if you're going to do it online and no one's familiar with it. But there's so many disparate and separate pieces, you're almost going to have to predict what you think your players are going to know. And so an intense session zero is going to be absolutely necessary. Also, I believe in the thing that this is weird. This isn't real. Okay, I'm going to chalk this up as a negative, but this will also be part of the positive because I'll flow into that. A negative of this game is part of the negative of the creative mind of Monte Cook, and that is that I believe the game suffers from its own success. And Dead Man Storyteller says Monte Cook has added a couple of new purchase options for the game. I was not aware of that, and I'm sure there are various purchase levels. I guess I'll go ahead and look for that now. But I guarantee he's going to have different purchase levels and different things. I want to look that up right now. And getting across this game, there we go. Yes, pre-order the black box is $252 US. As of right now, Invisible Sun in PDF is $99. A group purchase bundle pre-order $81, and Invisible Sun free preview is free. Group purchase bundle pre-order. Have to find out what that is. So yeah, of course, as in order to spread this game to a larger group of people. Good morning, Rickard. I understand his need to put this out in digital format to make it more affordable for a larger group of individuals. I mean, if you're going to spend $250, maybe you've got 5 people in your group, including yourself, to get $50 from each person, US. I mean, that's, yeah, it is definitely a premium buy. And unfortunately, it's a premium dipping your toe into it. Also, I think a negative is positive. Um, Monty Cook, if you followed Monty Cook's career or creative career after he left Dungeons and Dragons, decided to make Numenera, The Strange, the Cipher System, you will understand the progression into this particular game. And I believe when I say he's kind of a victim of his own success, because the mindset of Numenera and The Strange is one that's very surreal, very mixing of a dream-like landscapes and introspection and things that are very much not part of classic, I want to carry my sword, kick down the door, and steal the stuff and kill the creatures, right? And so as his popularity grew and the games grew, I believe it bumped up against a playing style that just isn't very, it's just not very popular. So I think it throws people off. And I think that's in conflict with FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And so some people feel like they should understand what's going on and would want to be part of it. And others feel like they either monetarily are being left out of the progression or don't like the play style and don't understand why other people like that play style. And I think that's where the conflict comes in. So explaining this very cerebral game to people and spreading that along with the fact that it's very expensive. Even a $99 multi-file PDF, I think, turns people off. Uh, Dead Man Storyteller says there's also additional supplements if you scroll down to the bottom, of which I will. Let's see. Come on. And yeah, because there's additional supplements. I believe it's called, come on, let's go all the way down here. I believe it's Silent Streets is one of the supplements. And there we go. The Black Cube. Unboxing other items. There we go. Secrets of Silent Streets, a Visley kit, the directed campaign, group purchase bundle, a Visley kit for you and a $40 gift certificate. Give the gift certificate to your GM to help share the cost of an Invisible Sun purchase, which makes a lot of sense. Directed campaign, 12 months of virtual and physical campaign content, enough to keep most groups busy all month, actually tailored to your players and storyline. You will need a copy of Invisible Sun to make use of the directed campaign. I remember him talking about that. Yeah, Visley kit secrets. So I'm, you know, his investment into this game, I'm sure, was not limited to just one release, right? He wants to spread this out as much as possible. You know, why, if you're going to be successful, why not bring success and spread the knowledge and spread the wealth? In the chat, sorry about this, guys. In the chat, Rickard says, you reckon that the branding of fantasy theme to makes it so that it fails at managing expectations? More so for Cipher. Invisible Sun seems like the theme works better with the idea. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say I'm going to agree with you. Yes, I believe that the themes in this game, it's far more. This game is more cerebral. It's very noir, almost like players would be better off by being noir detectives in like 1920s fictional Chicago with Cthulhu in the background while delving into someone's mind in Inception and The Cell and where dreams may come. I believe that's the name of the movie. When Dreams May Come, Where Dreams May Come. There's a bunch of other other media we can pull from, but it's a hard sell, and especially even like Deadman brings up teratology. What is teratology? Deadman, you're always bringing knowledge to me that I'm I've, I've got to look this stuff up. Rickard says I get a mild Lovecraftian theme to Invisible Sun. I would consider it. I would say you're absolutely correct. It is very, very Lovecraftian, especially the delving into secrets, the idea of opening doors you shouldn't. You almost get an image of like like a mental photograph of tentacles reaching from under a door, and the player characters have a key to the lock and they're just about to open it. So yes. Now here's the good things. If you understand Monty Cook's Numenera and Cipher system and the Strange, you won't be hard pressed to learn this game. He uses many of those techniques in this game as well, and it's not going to throw you off. For example, player facing dice in Cipher system, the Strange, Numenera, the GM does not roll any dice. So when the players act, the GM sets a difficulty, a challenge, and then they spend resources to reduce that challenge as much as possible, but by also spending resources knowing that there are going to be other challenges ahead of them. Deadman, a storyteller, says one of the expansion books for Invisible Sun. Oh, teratology. I did not know that. I did hear about Secrets of Silent Streets, and I did hear about the Visley kit. I'm sure there are others not predicted. They are scheduled for release at different times. And of course, when you have a premium RPG product, sometimes it's not writing the materials, it's getting the materials at the right, getting a company to produce the materials at the quality that you want, paper quality, ink printing, delivery charges. You have to worry about paper weight and the size, the weight of the item itself, and the delivery charges, how much it costs to have it delivered around the world. So a lot of that has issues. If you ever look up Kickstarters where people are producing dice, a lot of times they have to get the dice molds, and sometimes the dice molds are not accurate enough or not of a particular quality, or the companies can't produce enough of the material. So that becomes a problem, which is why I believe the price is so high. It's not necessarily, it's not the writing, it's the juggling of all the intricate pieces involved in it. So I see where the money goes as a small pub press writer and someone that's involved in that kind of stuff. I get the issues that are involved in that. And hell, I go through drive-through RPG and they make it as simple as possible, and it's still an issue when it comes to layout and inking and all that kind of stuff, and getting that corrected. So for me, the one good thing is that if you understand Numenera, Cipher System, The Strange, Predation, I believe is another game, you'll understand Invisible Sun. The other thing, I love games that are hyper focused on what they want to accomplish. Blades in the Dark is a perfect example of a game that's hyper focused on what it wants to accomplish. It's not about killing dragons. It's not about Blades in the Dark is about being a gang member, being a criminal, stealing loot, and trying to survive in a Victorian Gothic world where everyone is out to get you. And that's what it's about. It's not about superheroes. It's not about prehistoric, gaming. It's not about, Roman era gladiatorial arenas. It's about one thing. Invisible Sun is about one thing. And that one thing is delving into the actuality, which is almost like a dreamscape, Lovecraftian. I don't understand what the world is about, and then delving into that, where you're not going to like this game if you want things to make sense scientifically. You will love this game if you're someone who is into numerology, tarot, introspection, finding out the secrets of dreams, Call of Cthulhu and Cthulian themes, understanding that there are things you should not know or things that you should not delve into, and being fine with that. Being in a world that is built on the reason it exists is because it should exist for your personal goals, or your uncovering your secrets, or uncovering both discovering the outer world and finding out how it's linked to your inner world. It is not a scientific world at all. Things make sense until they don't. um, Rickard says a blade seems to be a specialized system, so it's not a generic system where you can do a lot of different things. Invisible Sun seems to be a a bit more generic in that you can tell a lot more different stories in it from what little I have heard of it. Yes, you it is generic in the sense that you can tell a lot of different stories, but it takes place in a world that is very much dreamlike. So yes, you can tell stories about kicking the door down and killing dragons, but on top of that, that dragon might be your own inner demons. It might be your own greed. It's like gravity exists in this game until it doesn't, because it has a reason not to, not because of some scientific, we're going to a world where it just doesn't have gravity. It could be, well, there's no gravity because the importance for your character and you in this story is not to have gravity at that moment, right? That's a weird thing to say. Maybe that's not the best thing to say. So for me, um, the best, another good part that's kind of bad too, is selling it to your players. This is a game that's not very easy to sell to someone else. um, as many great things that it has, it can be a little bit daunting to say, "Hey guys, let's play this Invisible Sun," and everyone's like, "I've heard about the game and I'd love to see it. Okay, what do I do?" And then you're like, "Well, you're going to have to come up with some secrets, and you're going to have to make your house, and then we're going to get together and make a neighborhood your house lives in. And oh, by the way, there are rooms in your house that have rooms that you don't know about, and you're going to have to gather keys to open them up. And oh, by the way, when you go out adventuring into the path of suns, those are suns that are external, that shine above you, but also those suns equally shine inside of you." Like when you start talking into that, some players, their eyes are just going to glaze over, and it's like, "Oh, what is he talking about? Just give me a character sheet and give me something to shoot at," right? um Deadman also brings up the fact that another expansion is called Book M. Yes, Book M. If you listen, I'm going to have to put a link for that. The Incantations podcast. It's Incantations, a cipher cast podcast. Talks about the Book of M, and the Book of M delves more into patrons, and clarifies and gives examples of using the magic system. And essentially, it's a book that gives you more player options, gives you more fortes, because there are a ton of fortes as for character generation, gives you ideas for patrons where you gain certain otherworldly and powerful beings as your patron that grant you certain abilities, or certain access to certain abilities, and also or certain obligations. One obligation is that they described in the podcast is that your patron wants you to grow larva in your eye socket so that it can grow and eats out your eye, and then is able to exit your face when they are ready to hatch and come out of its shell and go out into the world. So there's some body horror in this game as well. It can turn people off. And if I could bring up something, this game also lends itself to delving into sensitive issues, sensitive psychological issues. So yes, Rickard says, and oops, whoa. Uh, said like that, it seems to be far more about the setting rather than the stories that can be told within it. Well, there are the game is designed to be player centric. So it's not about delving into the entire setting. It's it reminds me of Eclipse Phase. And in the sense that there's a ton of areas to explore, and the GM tools are set up so that the players decide what they want to explore, and then you delve into those GM tools. You use those GM tools to tell those stories. So to be specific, one set of players might be like, listen, all we want to do is fight evil, go after Cthulhu, and shoot stuff with our flintlock pistols and magic. And if that's what they want to go after, then you as a GM have tools to create external adversaries. If instead the group is like, you know what, like us delving into our own secrets, like we live in the actuality, but we've brought with us our own demons, and we want to delve into our own dark passions and the things that reside inside of us. You also have tools to do that as well. And it does lend itself to being able to do both if you have both types of players in your game. But you could do one and then ignore the other. But it gives you so much material that it kind of feels like it's overwhelming to include it all at one time. And I related it to Eclipse Phase because Eclipse Phase has so much background setting material that it can be kind of overwhelming to include everything, to include the entire solar system in one game. And that's really not what this Invisible Sun is about. It's more about, hey, we want to do this one thing. And then it gives you the tools as a game master to do that thing. Deadman the Storyteller says, I just want to be a shopkeep. Yeah, those are those kind of players too. Although you can do that in this game. I don't know how long your shop would last, but you can do those things. Ricker says, I mean, the house and the room and the suns all makes it seem like there isn't character centric. It isn't character centric at all. You seem to have to dive into the setting rather than the character. Let's see if I can get more explicit with this. When you make your character, you build a house. And me as the GM has a space to put things into your house your character doesn't know about. The things in your house are based on your character. Wow. Okay. So if your character has certain dreams or goals or fears or obligations, then me as the game master can pull those strings inside of your house. Now let me flip the script on that, right? As a player character, you might be like, I don't want to do this introspection thing. Like, I just want to be a badass and kill stuff. I can use those same things, your fears, your obligations, your dreams, your hopes, your goals, and then make that external as well. So as a GM tool, I can make it internal, and your player characters are fighting your own inner demons, or external. They're fighting external demons in this world and just trying to survive. So first of all, Rickard, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because me telling you that, me having to describe that to you, that's a huge hurdle, right? If I just come to you cold and start telling you these things, you yourself are going like, well, what? What? You know what I mean? So for me, that's a bonus because, man, there are very few role-playing games where we actually get to do, it's not just about the combat and the social interaction, but the exploration is both internal and external. But at the same time, it's also about combat and social interactions and internal and external exploration. Yeah. So, okay. So, I promised to do a page through review. So that's basically the summary. I feel like the monetary value is worth it. You're getting a lot of material. The bad thing is it's a lot of material, and it's a big dip in for the money. The good thing is this game is focused on a very surrealistic gaming. The bad thing is it's focused on surrealistic gaming. So, so yes, I promised to share with you a lot of the handouts and the things that are available to you as a game master. So I wanted to do some game mastery things and then go into the setting. Um, so uh, there are three main things that are available to you for as a game master's tool, and I'm going to share my screen here and share the entire screen. There we go. All right. So Rickard says, I think it's a very roundabout way of doing it. Uh, the introspection exploration can be done with character moments by the DM in the greater story of whatever plot you're running. Though I fear I have been captured by the squirrel. Uh, Yes. Oh, by the way, what I'm paging through now is a book called The Path. There's a book called The Path and another one called The Way. And those books, The Path is basically the setting material and GM tools, and The Way is goes in far deeper into the magic system and how to adjudicate a lot of that stuff. Um, the okay. When I hear you talking about, like, you can just do player moments in terms of delving into introspection, but this game actually has a mechanical adjudication when it comes into those things. So it's not a matter of, hey, I want to discover something about my character's background. There's a mechanical reward for finding out or defeating or confronting or running away from or being defeated by your own fears. So a lot of this, like, if you take a look at some of this art, it is very surreal, very, very surreal. And all of those things can be part and parcel of what's going on. A Dead Man, a storyteller, says, like with Mech Warrior 3E, there are 5 pages of how to play and 100 plus pages of character creation. Yeah. So right here, what Invisible Sun is, and this is a description of what it is, and it pretty much encapsulates everything that I just said. It is escapism. It's an examination of what it means to be human, secrets, a suggestion that the world is bigger and more wonderful than we can understand, and it's surreal. So yes, the actuality, that's where the player characters play. That's what they do. The actuality is a dream world, and our world, the world that we live in right now that we're talking, is called Shadow, and that is not. That's a world where there isn't any magic, and such. What Invisible Sun is not, and this delves into, it's not a true look at occultism or a real world manual of magic, which it is not. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Great pains were taken to create a fictional original occult. That's basically the game master's thing of having to explain that this is a role playing game when people were like, "You're delving into the occult" and all that kind of stuff. So you have a lot of that part into this game. So when it comes to interest, now mind you, you don't need to, quote unquote, have an adventure of nothing but introspection and delving into every character's fears and stuff. You don't need to do that, but some players like that. They love to know that their character has grown past their fear of the dark, or their grown past their guilt over letting one of their loved ones die, or things like that. So yeah, maybe I'm making it worse. I have a feeling I'm just making it worse. Record says, oh, I'm talking about psychological exploration. As a DM, I'm more interested in having those moments leave an impact on the players rather than having a system to adjudicate how it happens. So I guess I'm more interested in the meta impact rather than the in-game impact of introspection. True. Okay, you're not wrong, but just like handing out fate points or bennies or hero points or what have you in game, some players want a tangible reward, right? Like some players are like, why would I bother role playing my character's guilt unless I'm going to get something out of it? And some people they need that, right? They don't want the oh, I'm doing this just because. It's almost like playing a character with limitations, right? I'm not going to. Some players are like, I'm not going to play my character being afraid or frightened or weak unless there's a mechanical reason for it. So that's why it exists. Now, for you and your players, it's like, oh, I don't need that. I'm going to role play my character being afraid or being a coward or failing in some kind of endeavor. But on the other hand, some people need that physical. They need that I gain 3 points. They need that I earn experience points from this kind of thing. And so that's why there's a mechanical way to adjudicate it. So on one hand, I hear you, because there's many players that are like, we do that all the time. I don't need a mechanical version for it. On the other hand, there are other players that are like, yeah, I could do it, but why would I? That just makes my character weak. And why would I role play my character being weak and quote unquote not win the game, right? Yeah, Rickard says, those players aren't in my game. Sure, but they exist. So as a creator, you gotta do those things. Right now, right now I'm paging through the book, which is called The Path, and right here I wanted to get to the Sooth deck and the Path of Suns. So the Sooth deck and the Path of Suns is another tool for the game master to use, because the game master in this game does not roll any dice. All right, so because the game master doesn't roll dice, it's like, well, how do you manipulate the game, right? If you want things to happen in the game, how do you do it? And so there are things that you can use that allow you to give you tools in this surrealistic game. Wow, I'm stumbling over my words. For example, in this game, everything is made of color. And so colors are like the building blocks of existence. Everything is made of color. Color comes from the suns. That is why, as the Path of Suns would suggest, the suns are at the heart of reality. They provide and maintain existence. The dark, the absence of color, is nothingness. So if I go over here to the Sooth deck are a round deck of cards. How you're going to pick these cards out randomly, digitally, I guess maybe number them, or I don't know, attach them to some kind of randomizer or something. But as a game master, you draw these cards when an important event happens. And an important event could be changing of a scene, a fumbled / critical styled roll. This could happen when the players make a dramatic decision in the course of the game. It could be them going down the wrong path. And you can also draw these cards basically every round of combat, right? Where things change. And the cards have an image in them. At the top, they have a name, such as something like the Hidden Moon. They have a sun at the bottom of them. For example, on the left, it says gray and indigo. And then to the left, there's a number. And to the right, there's a suit. That symbol represents the suit of the card. And so when you draw the cards, you can use them as just inspiration, right? To the left, there's this image where you see this tower and you see the flaming braziers, flaming bras. Anyway, you see ravens, I guess, circling around this ancient temple. Maybe there's a dark sky with a moon in the background, so you can use that. Maybe someone sees that, or they have a dream, or it's an image imprinted on something, or a character remembers it. You can use the title to push the story somewhere about the hidden moon. Maybe there's a reason why the moon is hidden away somehow. At the bottom, this is a game effect with the sun. So there's the gray sun and the indigo sun. The gray sun would be the one that's in the sky. The indigo sun is like the night side sun, or the diminished sun. And then there's also a number. You can use that number whether you want to make a difficulty or what have you. And you can also use these cards outside the game. So it's basically a GM tool to be like, I don't have an idea. Oh, here's something. Or it's a GM tool to go to say, I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm going to draw a card, and then I'm going to allow this thing to guide the game. Now, Deadman the Storyteller says there is an app for Invisible Sun. I forgot about the app. I'm sure the app, has a randomizer for the cards, the die mechanic, a ton of the cards to pick them at random, especially like the ephemeral cards, and that kind of thing. So yeah, these cards are your GM tool, and you draw them to change the sun, because when the suns change, certain magics become more powerful. Basically, you get bonuses to use certain magics, and then certain magics are diminished, and you play those cards on the Path of Suns. So I'm going to flip over to the Path of Suns. This is where some people thought this game was a board game. This is a scan of the board that's played down in front of everyone, and each of the symbols relates to a particular sun, and then you play the Sooth deck. Go back to the Sooth deck. Here, you play these cards, these round deck cards, onto the Path of Suns, and then you follow this Path of Suns, and the Path of Suns leads all the way over until you have this one symbol that's separate from the other cards, and that's called the Invisible Sun. And so each of these Path of Suns has a color associated with them. Woo! and so let's go back to... Yeah, we'll go back to the Sooth deck. So the Sooth deck, you can use these as like images of NPCs, of locations, of dreams, of images of the future, of maybe places that one or more of the player characters has visited and doesn't remember. It could be when they open a door into their house, this is what's revealed to them, all kinds of things. So these cards, I believe there's 80 of them, and the Sooth deck is like it's basically the game master's way of rolling the dice without having any dice to roll. They can come up with certain adversaries. These cards relate to player characters, what's known as their heart. So while drawing some of these cards might seem like they are adversarial to some of the player characters, others, they actually might find some kind of, based on the type of character they make, they might find some kind of connection to it. So the Sooth deck, so the game master does not roll dice. They create a challenge for the players. And that challenge can be any number from 1 through 17. Normally it's from 1 to 10 if it's mortal, and then 11 through 17 is something that's very arcane to overcome. That's that number, that challenge rating, 1 through 10 or 1 through 17, is the number that is used to create all other adversaries in the game. So going back to the path, when you as a game master want to create an adversary, for example, any of these individuals here, you pick a number. You can design them, of course, before the game, or maybe randomly they find these people in the shattered realms of the Saturnine, or inside the city, or delving into their house, or exploring the Path of Suns, going to these different dimensions. Whatever the case may be, you could say, well, this gentleman is going to be a challenge of 12. The bird-headed individual in the middle might be challenge 8, and this advisor might be challenge 5. And so whenever the players have to roll dice, usually 1d10 or 2d10, they have to make that roll or better to overcome that challenge. And if they miss it, they are affected by whatever their challenge there is, whether they suffer damage or they're hypnotized or or transported to another world or put under stasis or whatever the case may be. This book, The Path, that I'm paging through, tells you about atoms, planets, everything in between, time and space. This image here of the past, today, the future, and the point of creation. When you play your characters, you're actually moments behind the point of creation, and the point of creation is always moving ahead of you. So what this basically means is that as your players, as you are delving into this game, there is a lot of future ahead of you that both you as the game master and the players don't know yet, but exists, as well as the past retreating behind you. So, for example, you could have a player character, you've played 6 sessions, you've always been, I guess, an only child, you've always lived by yourself in your house. You're essentially the epitome of an orphan, an orphan without family. On the 7th game, you might have a younger brother and your mom and dad living with you. That's because the past, which is retreating behind you, is growing. So now you do have family. You don't have to explain that, oh, why is my family living with me? You just happen to have a younger brother and your mom and dad living with you. And that is a weird concept to think of. Kind of happened in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But essentially, you could have no family, and the next game you do have family, and they've always been there. And you may remember who they are, or you may not remember, but they remember you. And sure, we've always been here. Hey, thanks for coming home. Did you pick up any food? And you're just, as a player character, you're just like, what? It doesn't make any sense. But everyone in the rest of the world is like, oh yeah, your younger brother, yeah, he's been around here all the time. So that is a very strange concept to embrace, but exists. In the path here, it talks about technology and innovation and why it exists and doesn't exist. Talks about computers and telephones. They actually exist in this world because, in a way, this is a surrealistic version of the 1920s US. There are automobiles, trains, airplanes, and trains. They were brought from Shadow. It talks about death and transition. Yes, you can play a character who has died, become a ghost, and you role play your way back to animating your dead body and returning to the living. So you can flow into the pale, and you can very much either your character's just dead and you're like, nah, I'm going to make up someone new, or you can become a ghost and you go into different you go through different phases as a ghost. So if your character dies, you can become a residua, and then an apparition, and then a poltergeist, and a haunting spirit, and so on and so forth. Okay. And you have to recover some of your memories, some of the goals in the game could be recovering your memories. Instead of gold and cash and money, there are these orbs, and the orbs are made up of thoughts and dreams and memories themselves. So that is another thing that you can collect and recover while you're in the game. And so you can have an adventure where the PCs are trying to regain their memories, and that in and of itself might be a goal. In other words, you could have an adventure where my player character is trying to recover my memories of my lost family. And once you recover those memories, maybe that family now becomes real and you get to interact with them. And maybe there's a reason why in the past your character got rid of those memories, because maybe they're evil, or they're they might be demons or have a relationship with angels and things like that. Going down the path of sons right here, oops, the path of suns is not just a map of the actuality. It is a map of the human soul. So the path of suns is both each sun represents a different plane or dimension, using Dungeons and Dragons, right? The red sun is a different world than the indigo sun, which is a different world than the green sun, and they are um, epitomes of what they represent. The red sun represents destruction and change and rage and aggression and violent upheaval, where the green sun represents and life and birth and longevity. And the indigo sun represents truth and uncovering secrets and telling of stories. So you can go to different dimensions that represent each of those things. So of course the red sun, is a hellscape, right? It's war. It is ever changing. It is chaos. But it's also a map of the human soul. So if you want to play it like, hey, we're going to go into the nine hells. We're going to go to the path, the red sun, or path of the red sun. Sure. Or it also represents the map of the human soul. So if you want to play in your game, hey, we want to, each sun represents a part of us, and combined together, all those suns represents the human spirit. So we want to go to these different worlds, which actually is delving into our own selves. So I want to go into my own red sun and see what my own aggression represents. This game also is that as well. So you can tell those exact stories, but reframe it as either something external, I'm going to another dimension, or internal, I'm going into the dimension of my own soul. We talk about here paging through like demons and angels and what they represent, and demonic forms, and how they try to collect souls, and they gain their power and their magic. They can only use magic by collecting souls and harvesting those souls to do those things, to perform those acts. There are also angels in this world, and you talk about conceptual spirits and the gods, where there really are no gods, but there are powerful beings, and it gives you names of them so you can use those as fuel for your game. We talk about the people in this game. Of course, there's humans, very strange individuals. There are elder Bryn. Elder Bryn are shape changers in this world, and they are like the fey creatures of this world. Um, they take on different forms, and you can flavor them to take on the forms of things that are conceptualized. Um, like the sound of one hand clapping or something like that. And you can reshape them as well. There's also the lacuna. The lacuna are an absence, not a presence. I love this image. Uh, they appear to be vaguely human-shaped holes in reality, and the holes lead to somewhere else. Always the lacuna's choosing, which is a very strange kind of creature or thing in this world. Um, uh, there are strange things in the world, like viruses. Mirrors mirrors are a virus that has infected reality. Reflective surfaces are one thing, but true mirrors seek to replicate and spread so that they can reflect more and more. Once they have reflected everything that exists, they will invert reality, and theirs will become the true universe, and we will be naught but a reflection. So mirrors spread like a virus throughout this the city of Saturnine, which is a very strange thing to consider. But yes, there are other diseases and maladies like the spidering. Um, Spidering can happen to anything: a book, a cat, a table, a house. Suddenly and without warning, it sprouts 8 spidery legs that match its size, and it begins to move around like a spider. So yeah, one day a house in your neighborhood could just up and walk away, and so no one knows what causes spidering. There's spell binding. There's architectural viruses that cause buildings to sicken and rot. Oh, there's spidering going on right there. Someone about getting ready to come home to cook a meal, and their pots and pans have left because they've got a spidering. Viral thought forms of forgetting, where people forget their images. Key falls are, it says, aren't really a virus. They're more like a strange kind of weather where these strange keys called wicked keys fall out of the sky. And there's some spidering going on in this image here as well. And those keys, you could collect those keys, and those keys can unlock not just physical places, but mental things as well. Let's see anything in the chat. Okay, we'll go through the Path of Suns. So let's page down a little faster here. There are gates and guardians to the paths of suns, and right here, and there's a night side path. And this whole chapter basically talks about the wardens that guard the path of suns, as well as the fact that it talks about the ecology of each sun and what happens in those path of suns. So there's like silver and gold, and the path of suns goes through a particular region. So there's like silver and green, and it gives you a number of encounters. And right here, move up just a little bit, it gives you silver sun encounters, but right here in the middle, right here, this is how an NPC, you can create an NPC on the fly. Lady Taralicasis, Lady Taralicasis. I love to butcher names. Anyway, she's level 6 and has +4 resist. So she's level 6. So whenever the players want to convince her of something, or hide from her using stealth, or cast magic upon her, they need to roll a 6 or better on 1, probably 2d10. And they can lower the difficulty by gathering venture, which basically means on their player character sheet, they can spend Benet and other factors that they have to reduce this difficulty to convince her of one or more things. And if they try to harm her, she has +4 resist. So that +4 resist allows her, she's a level 10 to resist like mental intrusions or illusions, or maybe even hiding invisibly or something of that nature. So that's basically how you create, Man by the Tree, level 9. And here we have the encounter. A tall man stands by a tree. He will not or cannot speak, but if approached, he offers a drink from a bottle. If accepted, the drink refreshes all the imbiber's certes pools. That's your physical pool of points. If the bottle is refused, his head cleanly splits in half vertically, and a small figure that looks like the same man, only 3 inches or 8 centimeters tall, peers out. Bless all you create, curse all you destroy, he says, and then the head closes up again. The man walks off. So, yeah, very surreal. And here's the stats. Man by a tree, level 9. That's it. So, yeah, quite surreal, quite odd, quite strange. So let me go through. Okay, so we're going to go through the path of suns. I'm going to page down a little faster. So if you are someone who doesn't like visual things moving too fast, sorry about this. But it basically is the entirety of the path of suns. And here we have a map. If I go down here, we have a map of the world. I'm going to show you a larger image of this. Yeah, that looks very odd. Oh, the Joker. Yes. Yes. The indigo sun. Come on. Where's the map? Under the indigo sun. I'm going to show you a larger image of this. Let's see. Under the indigo sun. This is a map scan of the world under the indigo sun. And essentially, this is a map of the world of indigo. To the left, the blue is an ocean. And to the right is basically space. It's the abstraction. And the pinkish area are like this unfathomable archipelago to the right, top right, where the cursor's moving, are these floating island lands. This is almost space, a void, an infinity, lost in dream, almost like an etherscape. Whereas the blue to the left is an ocean, and actually known as the Forever Falls. There's a small word here where it says Forever Falls. That's where the water is basically pouring over the edge of that ocean. And the map of Saturnine, the main city, takes place here, upper mid right, where the cursor's moving around. And then the rest of this you can explore. I'm sure, depending on the success of the game, Monty Cook will probably put out other supplements that go further into this world. So there's the Distraction and the Eugene Monastery and other places that you can pull on, whether you want to do more of an external, like we're going to explore the world and go down the Indigo Rail and fight evil, uncover, Cthulhu-esque kinds of things. Rickard says, so is that just a Tuesday for the players, as it does trippy stuff like that, or does trippy stuff like that happen every now and again, so it's become normal? Yeah. I love the way you put that, man. My answer to that, the way the game is set up, my answer to that is that's going to be based on your game, right? So if your players are really not into the, trippy ass stuff, right? If they're really not into it, oh, by the way, I'm moving the image. I'm moving down into the invisible sun. This explains the suns and what they represent. So, for example, right here in the middle, above this symbol in the middle, it says the silver sun, and it represents creation. And to the right is an image of kind of what like a typical image in the invisible sun world would look like. To the left is the green sun. Below that, the word green sun. Below that image, it says life, and there's an image of what that may look like. So my suggestion, Rickard, and thank you for saying that, is like, yeah, is that just a Tuesday or what the hell's going on, right? For players that are really not into or want to find out what surrealistic gaming is like, but they're like, I like it a little more stable. My suggestion is, let's see if I can find this image. I'm going to explode an image, and hopefully this looks rather clear. There we go. My suggestion would be maybe describe it like this. So in other words, your players walk around in a physical world. You describe everything within, like 3 times their arm's reach as being reality. There is stone, there is rain, there is a building, there's a door. Maybe things in the shadows, things well away from what they can reach or touch or interact with might be kind of odd. Like maybe there's an alley with some glowing eyes down there. There's maybe down the street, there's a giant slug that happens to be moving around, but essentially it doesn't really affect them. I would just make it, yeah, you're just walking around exploring the world, and every once in a while there's something strange. Maybe there's a human being walking around and you're like, hey, you talk to that person, you realize they don't have a personality, and when they turn around, they look like a cardboard cutout, right? When you look at them from the front, they look human, but when you look at them from behind, they're empty, they're just a cardboard cutout. So you could do something like that, but do it subtly. Like once maybe they encounter 3 oddities and that's about it. On the other hand, if you really want to jump down like into like the really bizarre, you could, if you really want to jump down into the bizarre, into the really strange and bizarre, you could actually just be like, yeah, everything you do and see and feel and touch is like is way out there and really bizarre. And that's if your players understand that. And for some people, even game masters, not just players, but game masters, really don't want surrealism because it's hard to find something to attach to. If the world's constantly changing, then what effect do the players have? What does it matter? For people who are into surrealism, what matters is the self, not what's external. But even that can be kind of hard to describe, right? So that's why in the game, every player has a house and the other players around describe that house. So if nothing else, you can go back home and everything in your home is where you left it, and your neighborhood, what your other player characters create around you, you know what your neighborhood looks like. Rickard says, I mean, it can be a horrific thing that would require a sanity check, or it could be, yeah, or it could be, well, was put together by Salvador Dali, so a man having a tiny man inside feels like how the world should be. Yeah, you absolutely positively a session zero, right? You really have to say, hey guys, listen, okay, you're gonna have to bear with me here. Don't like your character is not making sanity checks specifically about talking to a man by the tree where his head explodes and he offers you a drink, right? His head splits open and whatever, right? It's some things you might even have to do this metagaming wise until people get used to it. You might just have to say, guys, relax. It's nothing to be panicked about. This is something you would normally see. Almost like I take the impression it would be like us today walking around our own dreams where things don't make sense, but we aren't scared by them or driven insane by them. That the fact that your boss, like you have a dream and your boss has the head of a dragon and, you know, smells like a burnt feces and has spider legs coming out of his back, and you'd really like to, like, you know, punch the hell out of him. That's just a normal thing, right? That's how I look at it. But yeah, this is really, really strange. So, okay, what other game mastering this game? Let's go into Saturnine. Let's go and show this game mastery game. There are plenty of handouts to give you suggestions as to what's going on. So you can't see many of the words. I could zoom in on a lot of these things, but we're just going to page down slowly. This is the city of Saturnine. So let me go again. I'm going to go back to the larger poster. Right here under the indigo sun, this is the main city, the city of Saturnine. So here we have the city of notions, and the areas that are named, the ones that are far more bold. For example, to the right here, you have the reinvention. In the middle, you have the topiary. To the left, you have Lower Taverswood, and then there are these small sections of town. There are 17 cities. Yes, those 17 cities correspond to 17 being the maximum difficulty or challenge rating that a game master can create in the game. Is there a connection? The answer is yes and no. The answer is yes, because there's numerology and only as much as you want. Deadman says, or it's like the latter parts of the Borderlands, the prequel expansion, the Claptastic Voyage. I don't remember that in Borderlands, but you know, for me, it's a session zero thing. I don't think it has anything to do with the strengths or weaknesses of the game. I think it's, look, guys, we need to talk about this and just understand that I'm going to describe some things that are strange. So if I tell you there's a giant slug in the background, or snail or something, just go with it. It might even give you a taxi ride if you need to. You might need to ride a snail as a taxi, because the fastest way to get somewhere might be the slowest. Yeah. Anyway, Rickard says, Invisible Sun, what Lovecraft would look like if made into a picture book by Salvatore Dali. You got that right. You definitely got that right. I'm going to go through some of the artwork too, just to even reinforce that. But yeah, this is the city of Saturnine, and the city of Saturnine went through a war. So I mentioned this before in the review 1 and 2. But as player characters, there was a war. You escaped the war by going into Shadow, which is the world we have today. You forgot most of your life. You've now exited Shadow, returned back to the actuality, and returned back to the city of Saturnine. And this is where the story starts. So much of this city is destroyed. So the parts that aren't named are destroyed. And there's like this war used like machines fueled by hate and rage and aggression and violence, using those pure emotions to fuel them. There could be golems, and there could be demons and all these kind of things. That's up to you and what you want to create. And yes, you can make, strange different kinds of geography and physics if you want to. And each of the cities is in the book known as The Path, tells you about the cities and what's there. Some have like a theater, some are black market, some places have entertainment, some places are where the rich live, somewhere places where the poor live. And in this map you have the undersling, and the undersling is basically city in the dark. It's almost like the underworld, but it's not technically underground. It's like it's not in a cave, it's under the city, but it's a whole nother city by itself, known as the undersling. And of course it's surrounded by abstraction as well. So going back into the chat, let's see. Deadman says, you are in Claptrap's mind, and at one point you are pursuing Shadow Trap, and he changes the geography to hinder your progress. If I understand what you're saying that you are in someone else's mind, and that person, while you're pursuing a thought in someone else's mind, they create a shadow trap for you so that it hinders your progress. My answer to that is yes. You absolutely positively can have a game where you're going into someone else's mind, and this is in someone's mind, and you're trying to gain a secret or uncover some kind of hidden thought in their mind. Maybe that person wants you to go into their mind because they hid something away, a specific secret in their mind. That could be a game, that could be a mission by itself. So the answer is yes. This is Inception. This game it's so bizarre and so weird. So, okay, so we did some maps, we did some posters. I showed you the Path of Suns. Now I'm going to show you some GM tools, and these are handouts. Of course, you can print them out. You have them available online in the PDF. These are necessary to GM the game. So you have here levels of different effects for spell effects, because sometimes there's spell failures. There are Weaver and Vance spell failures. There's also makers. Makers create like basically magic items, if you want to call it that. I'm being very general with that, but they create magic items. And sometimes if there's a mistake in the magic item process, it has different levels of effect. And when Weavers cast spontaneous magic, they make up effects. And so this table gives you levels of effect that people can create, and if you need to do something on the fly. So, for example, someone says, I want to make a spell. I want to have a wind that blows an object. I want to use telekinetic power. I want to use my mind to lift up an object. I want to summon a skeletal hand that turns a doorknob. A level 2 effect means move up to 5 pounds or 2 kilograms a table lamp, right? So if they're like, I want to lift that guy up by the throat, where you're like, maybe you're going to have to do this as level 4 at 125 pounds. You're like, I'm thinking if you want to use a telekinetic thing to lift up somebody, you're going to have to go up to level 5, right? And then that level 5 becomes the difficulty. So this handout is a GM tool to do things on the fly. And of course, it goes all the way up. It's multi-page, so it goes up to higher levels. Of course, the higher the level, the more difficult. When characters gain experience, in this game, it's called acumen and crux. When you hand out acumen or they earn crux or earn acumen, they can, here's level 8, control a creature's mind for hours, or move up to 40 tons. Move up to 40 tons, a sperm whale once, or inflict 5 damage in a small area, or control the weather, or gain +2 dice on a significant action once, or heal all wounds. So these are examples of things. Also, these effects, you can add these to your NPCs. So if you have an NPC that can control the weather, well, that NPC most likely is level 8, Or you can say, well, they're level 4, but they have a level 8 ability. And if someone wants to counteract their weather control power, that would be level 8. So again, numbers 1 through 17, etc. Now there's magical flux. Magical flux is when, there's a problem. When you roll a 0, because when you roll the dice, it is 0 through 9. If you roll a 0, that literally is a 0. That's not a 10. When you roll a 0, you cause flux, because that's basically a 0. It's nothing. And then there's a minor flux chart. So you see this where you see minor flux chart, and at the bottom, next to it, you see a single 0. That's a minor effect that happens when you use magic. So, for example, someone close to you suffers 2 damage, or you are plagued by nightmares the next night, maybe preventing you from getting a full night's rest, and that might affect your recovery. You have a terrible headache for the rest of the day, or an object close to you catches fire, or lice-like insects suddenly infest your hair and clothing. So all of these things are like minor effects that happen when your magic goes awry, and so on. So if you roll multiple dice, you have a chance of having multiple major fluxes happen when you use magic. So if you roll 2 die 10 and you roll double aughts, you roll double zeros, maybe you go blind, or stop, or you faint and cannot be roused for a few minutes, or one of your eyes turns permanently white. You know what I mean? Or your teeth fall out. Henceforth, you have 2 shadows. All that kind of stuff. And if you roll 3 dice, grand flux chart, etc., etc., etc. So you have a number of effects in the flux chart, and of course, it's a handout. You can print that out for yourself as a game master, or if someone else, I suppose you could buy the game and hand it out to somebody else that was willing to run it for you. So yeah, now memorable NPC chart. So you have an NPC chart. You don't, as you guys were talking about, like this weird Lovecraftian Salvador Dali, weird, surrealistic thing. So how do I describe NPCs? Here's a handout chart for you to create NPCs on the fly and give them memorable traits. Me personally, I kind of wished instead of little plus signs, this was a randomized chart with numbers. That's just me, because yes, I normally do not roll on these charts, but some people would like to do that. Or if you want to challenge yourself as a game master, roll a couple of D10s or whatever, or roll some percentile dice and go, you know what? Hey, I didn't make up a neighbor that lives on the left side of my house, or a person that lives across the street from me. What's with them? And then you roll some things, right? For example, you have talks to a boulder on their shoulder for NPC trait, or nervous about one particular unrevealed thing, or moves as though they're underwater. Remember the movie 300, and he went to speak to the woman that was the oracle? That could be a trait right there. The oracles in your world move as though they are underwater. Or talks quickly and rarely finishes a sentence, a thought, or hey, would you like to, are you considering getting a sandwich? I really like the way that sword looks on your hip, because it reminds me of, that'd be weird, incoherently drunk from time to time, moves like a dancer, walks with a limp, hums incessantly, acts generously but condescending, sneezes whenever someone casts a spell nearby. So yeah, this is a handout. It's just something to like, they're going to speak to an NPC and I don't know what the hell to come up with. Laughs at the end of every statement. Twirls their hair, drums their fingers. So we have some traits, but we also have some NPC appearances. Some surrealistic appearances, things like tongue is a darting lizard, or head is a large mushroom, or smoke seethes out of eyes. or upper and lower torso are separate, or head is just a skull. And of course, if you pick these randomly or you come up with some ideas, these could just be simple old NPCs that they meet along the way. Head of a shark. Fingers are candles, some lit, some not. Enormously obese, carried by floating jewels. No mouth, giant mouth in stomach. Or extra babbling mouths all over body. Ugh, ugh, ugh. Eyes are clocks. Entire body is translucent. That'd be kind of cool. Get to see like the muscle structure and maybe some blood flow, some nerve endings and tendons. I like that. Mouth is one fingertip instead of face. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe, and I apologize. I read through this like twice. This game twice. It's still hard to register in the brain, but I believe under NPC appearance, the PCs are, when you pick a trait for your character, you can use these as little traits to add to your character, just so you have something unique to add to them, so that it kind of represents something that's special about your character. Is this multi-paged? Yeah, it's multi-page. So again, you could print this out, hand it out, all that kind of stuff. Has no shadow. Black hair turns into a seemingly endless stream of crows. One hand is much larger and made of iron. Teeth have tiny animate faces on them. Skin is missing. Maybe the skin is missing is more with the muscle and tendons. Skin is faceted like a crystal. All that kind of. Nose missing. Extra set of eyes immediately below normal eyes. So on and so forth. All right, so then we have another handout for the Game Master, miscellaneous locations, sites, or scents. A GM should choose from the following list to interject some surrealism to the game. Again, a heart still beating rests on a table like a heart still beating rests on a table like a sculpture. Or everyone has stopped to let a parade of tiny turtles go by. Or a well-dressed person is sleeping in the middle of the street. Or a white chair that moves on 6 legs and begs for meat. What? A person is handing out small banners, each one bearing the words, "I promise not to sleep." Flowers grow wherever a man steps. A tall building has a huge living human head on the top. A man snoozes in a chair, but his tattoo makes comments to people as they walk by. A woman wears a copper crown fused to her head. A bird's nest in a woman's expensive hairdo. A cat has a head like a candle with a burning wick slowly causing it to melt. A tree whose leaves are upside down umbrellas. So on and so forth. You have very surrealistic things you can add in, maybe just using only 1 or 2 at a time, so you don't overdo it. You don't blow your wad, or I don't know, climax too soon. Trying to do something rather absorbs everyone in there. So here we go. I'm going to go into the art, and then I'm going to go back into the keys. So again, this artwork is extremely surreal, mind-bendy, based on whatever the hell you think your game is going to be about. Again, I would highly suggest, like, don't do everything at once. Don't do everything at once. Sometimes you just need to like just say, okay, maybe a little bit at a time. Maybe there's some bad guys or whatever. Maybe I'll use some of these images to get ideas for what player characters look like, and delve into the game that way. And just surrealism is not making sense of the physics of how the world works, but making sense of the reason why the world works. There's a reason why it's there. Is it because of nightmares or dreams by the player characters of someone else? Maybe there was a murder. Maybe it's because the number 3 represents something unique. Like, for example, here I think is a good example of dipping your toe into something. Here's maybe a player character. He's holding a briefcase, maybe a little nervous, doing a little Cthulhu investigation, possibly worrying someone might steal his secrets. And here we have a giant beetle on the wall just hanging out. There's some posters, Zero's bar you can go to, or the Citadel. There's some graffiti on the wall and some runes, maybe or maybe not, they mean something. And then right as you get further and further away from this individual, you have things like there's a reflection of runes in the pools of water. There's maybe a little creature reaching his hand out of the water. Oh, there's multi-fingered centipede to the left. There's a drain pipe with maybe a beast or a snake or something from the drain water. There's a trash can with tentacles. I don't know, maybe somebody should have eaten that and killed it first before throwing it away, but maybe they ate all the good stuff and it's still alive. Looks like there's a poster for maybe a theater or a movie house and whatnot. So all of these things. And this gentleman has a shadow, and that shadow might be his own shadow that is, his own thoughts or fears or something like that. So again, you could pull on those strings and stuff. So yes, what a strange, weird, odd place to be. I think these look like player characters. I mean, they're great NPCs, but I'd play one of these characters. A demon drinking. How do you put that glass down? It probably balances on itself. Woman with trees and clocks. Very surreal. Very, very surreal. Stack of skulls, swans. A number of the you will see in the artwork and throughout the book that there are images that repeat itself: tentacles, ravens, swans, fire, halos, clocks, and they are an in-game reference to things that relate to the player characters. The snakes and lizards and things that you will see in this game relate to the player characters, and they may bringing those tropes up over and over again, those images, those things in the background may lead the players down a path if you want them to investigate something or give them information about a villain or a protagonist or someone that can help them out. So yeah, absolutely. There's some great images, some great artwork. I love splatterpunk. I love this style of artwork where you get a hint of something solid and then it kind of fades into something else that's kind of ephemeral, undefined, which allows you, meaning us, meaning me as a game master, to make up things that I want. Masks are a big thing. Like this, the idea of canes and briefcases kind of gives you the idea of the MacGuffin, right? The secret that you can't find. Oh, here's a city. It's very strange. Floating eyeballs. Someone handing out papers with the head of a floating fish. There's a taxi and people whose head doesn't exist, and someone walking a dog that doesn't exist, and walking a pool table. Yeah, really bizarre. A person without eyes could be an NPC. Maybe they're gesturing to the black box. See how metagame this game is? The black box does exist in the world, and maybe they need to open it up to open up the game of Invisible Sun to then play that game to delve into their own things. Yeah, vampires. That's a pretty common trait. Not common trait, but we know what vampires are, so you can insert them into the game as well. Owls are a big thing as well in the game setting. Woman's head's missing. You might want to attach that again. There's this gentleman, got spiders, tentacles. Think his chest. Yes, this gentleman has something trapped in his chest, which looks like a cage. I believe that's one of the fortes where you can cage other things. Spiders are a big deal as well. Things, sometimes there's a spidering of things. Let me get back into the chat if I can see anything here. All right. Ninjas. You got to have ninjas. I mean, people want to play ninjas. Here's a strange thing. There are rail lines, and the rail lines do not necessarily correspond to physics. So they do have rails that go into and out of and across buildings and such. Very Escher-like. Rickard says, just looking at the art, this game would be be a hard pass for me. Hey, listen, I am not saying that this game is for you at all. But now that you know, yeah, right. Like I'm arming you with some knowledge here, some images. Like, whoa, this is just doesn't seem right for me. Now, of course, what you could do is you could say, okay, I'm just making an example. Like you could say, well, this piece of art, is that super surreal? Maybe not. Maybe you could say, well, this piece of art in this kind of setting, yeah, maybe I'll go for that. But people's heads floating over their shoulders and stuff, maybe not. Maybe I don't want to do that. Again, this isn't that far away from reality, for something that's, role playable. So I think there's a dial you could play with. That being said, if it turns you off, okay, that I get it, right? But this image of a white cat in the woods with this multi-eyed creature and clocks growing in trees, you can even see I don't know, maybe the alarms go off when something particular happens or whatever. I mean, what the hell? Like, why? How do you explain that? Yeah. And it could be maybe one of the player characters, their heart relates to clocks, so maybe they understand what the clocks represent. Here's maybe an angelic figure with eyes in her wings, and she's got three sets of wings, three pairs of wings. There's another image of an individual. Yeah, I get that. Here's another. Rickard says, I can take some ideas from the art, no problem, but I don't think it's a good investment to buy the system. Which I thank you for going through it. And you know what? My point wasn't to convince you should get it. Honestly, my thing is I like to arm people with knowledge. I purchased it because I honestly didn't know exactly what it would be. I heard rumor about like, oh, it's a $99 PDF. I got it. I was like, shit, it's more like a $99 massive tome. But am I going to try to run it online? Maybe. Here's another weird in-game thing. This guy is carrying around this thing called the Testament of the Suns. It's a 6-fingered hand, and that is also something you get if you purchase the black box, and it holds one of the round cards that is used from the Sooth deck to represent the Path of Suns. Woo! What a deep dive on that one. But yeah, if it's not for you, I get it. And especially if you want to tell someone else, like, well, what's in this game? I mean, they got the PDF. Can I use the PDF? This is just arming people with knowledge. Is it good for some? Yes. Is it not good for others? Sure. Everyone has to make their own decision. And I feel like I don't think it's fair to like or dislike something necessarily because of someone's personality. I could understand if you don't like something they've done in the past. And I also don't think it's fair to like or dislike something because I can't afford it, so I think it's stupid. It's like I can't afford a Ferrari, and I think they're sweet, right? Monetary value is different than quality. I think it's a high quality game. It gives you lots, but I don't think it's for everybody. And like I said, I think it's a matter of, I love this with the blood and the floating and the pentagram and stuff. But anyway, I don't think it's for everyone. I just think it's gotten so popular that for the people who are not into this kind of role playing, it's kind of driving them crazy because maybe they're either thinking, maybe I should be liking it, or I don't understand why someone is making me want to like it. Dead Man Storyteller says the Testament of the Suns can be purchased separately. Oh, I see. Again, correcting information. I didn't know whether those parts could be purchased separately, and I believe Monty Cook has even mentioned having bits and pieces possible to purchase separately, especially if you lose pieces or get them damaged, like the cards. For example, all the cards in the game are not printed in any of the books. So the magic cards of all types, the magic items. I'm being very generalized. The Vantian cards that have different shapes and sizes, the Weaver cards and such, they're not printed in the books. The cards are separate by themselves. So I'm pretty sure eventually on the Monty Cook website, or Monty Cook Games website, I guess is the official name, you will be able to purchase those things separately. Um, yeah, Rickard, I love that magical ritual image. Yeah, I go back to it. And yeah, the Testament of the Suns is a thing that you place on the table, and it holds the card. It holds the cards aloft so that, let's see if we can bring this down so you can actually see it little more clearly. Yeah, I like that. And see, an image like that, you could use that in a lot of other games. You know what I mean? I mean, this fits right into Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. I mean, that's right out of it. So some of these images, even this one, I mean, you know, what is that? A ghoul, maybe a goblin rat or something? Yeah, yeah. Uh, this thing, nightmare image, right? Something demonic. That's pretty nasty. Some body horror you have like right there. Spiders sucking something out of somebody's eye, or maybe digging in the person's eye. Great NPC image here as well. Something might be going on there. Might be an undead individual or someone suffering, feeding the rats. Now this is very surreal here. Woman has birds and they're hanging on her fingers, and they look like tiny tree branches with some kind of, maybe a vulture behind her, and the birds probably go into the cage in her head. What? Buildings with the bottoms shaped like skulls. Multi-eyed, nearly hairless cat with a tail of a centipede or millipede or whatever. I mean, what the hell? So yeah, a lot of this game, a lot of this game is just very, for me, I would just I would pick and choose what I would want. But again, you know, that's the bad part about it, right? Do I have to really pick and choose everything? I mean, do I really want to do that? Um, this goes into, we're going into the Caius. Hey, what's going on? A demon with bad hemorrhoids. Dolly. Hey, what's up? What's up, Caius, man? Caius of Glantry, what's going on, man? Eternally creative. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, I'm right now, of course, as usual, just like the first two, paging through The Invisible Sun. This book is known as The Path of Suns, and this book basically details all of the things that are all of the things that relate to the setting, the suns, the path of suns, each of the worlds you go to with the path of suns, whether you use those path of suns as an external world or an internal delving into the human spirit or something. And it goes into each sun, what they represent, the pale sun being the Deathlands. Back into the chat, Deadman says, if Lovecraft was down with Dolly, hell yeah. Yeah, Lovecraft meets Dolly. Absolutely, Caius. Man, yeah, it very much is that. I mean, what the hell? And yeah, this entire book, the known as The Path, there's 4 books. The Key, The Path, no, The Key, The Gate, The Path, and The Way. And each of those books details a certain thing. So the Key is character creation. The Gate is like the GM section, essentially, GM adjudication and a lot of magic. The Path tells you like where are you going in this game? What are you doing? And so this gives you details of the setting. And some players might want to be very introspective, so you're going to go through the Path of Suns as an internal exploration. For example, someone might want to go into the Indigo Sun, which is inside of one of the player characters, and then that player character with their players explores the inner workings of that person's soul. Or they might go to the exact same thing, which is an outer world. And this gives you, of course, game mastering the gate, and Monty Cook basically gives you lots of strings to pull on to describe what's going on. And look at these individuals here, right? There's a person with is that a mask maybe? There's a lady that made up of a bunch of bubbles. I think there's someone that's a gaseous form. There's someone with a drink in their hand. What the hell? Yeah. Go back into the chat. This details the city of Satyrine. Doesn't give you too much details about the war that took place in Satyrine, but it does say 1920s American sort of style. Yeah, Satyrine is unlike a shadow city in other ways. The streets can sometimes move or shift. Whole district can be larger or smaller than the actual space it occupies. Architecture does not conform to expectations or anything resembling physical laws or engineering needs. Satyrine boasts origami structures, buildings of smoke, and floating fortresses held aloft by fluttering butterflies, and that's just for starters. So you can describe your cities and your locations the way you want to. And again, I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to click the city of Satyrine here. This is the city. This is the city of Satyrine. The blank spaces, the dead spaces are the ravaged areas after the war. You can, of course, describe them the way you want to. I'm sure Monty Cook eventually will have more descriptors of these. And then the book known as The Path details the cities that are here and gives you some strings you can pull on to tell tell some stories in each one of these cities, whether they're filled with nobles or black marketeers, or there's lots of crime, or maybe the city is still feeling the effects of encroachment of the nasty things that happened in the war. So going back to the book known as The Path, it talks about life, some of the average things that happen. Of course, there's the image of the map in the book as well, and talks about some of the culture and how do they eat, sleep, what do people consume. So people can live, they consume sustenance from poetry and entertainment just as well as eating food. So it makes sense for people to be very social. It's basically an idea that, here we go, as described in the precepts chapter, most food eaten in actuality has a magical rather than organic origin. Satyrine food is no different. Beef, pork, chicken, vegetables, and bread, while more than half of such staples in a city were likely conjured rather than obtained in a more conventional ways. So, yes, they are very much conjured, but often magic creates basic food in a complete form. In other words, a Vizsla doesn't conjure meat and vegetables and broth. They just conjure a big pot of stew. Going down to clothing. It's worth mentioning a number of foods with unique qualities. For upper classes, if the food is not dancing, singing, expelling gouts of green flame, or arranged like a scene out of history, it's not worth eating. So you can play with those things. Have fun with it, I think, is the idea as well. Rule of law. There are 17 districts in Satyrine, of course. Each home is home to about 50,000 people. So, of course, there's 17 cities. Why wouldn't there be 17 cities? There's 17. There are 17 possible difficulties, challenges to be around. Deadman the Storyteller says, oh, Frank Wonder, hello there. Just jumping in here, so confused. This is a page-through review, the third and hopefully last page-through review of the PDF RPG Invisible Sun. Yes, you should be confused because the rest of us are. This is basically us going through the setting, some of the GM things that the GM has at their disposal to describe this very surrealistic world of the actuality. So here we have the 17 districts. And of course, each of these districts in bold, it tells you the district and gives you basically a generalized description of, oh, here's the name of the district from the map. Here's what's going on here, right? Lower class, middle class, upper class, blah, 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 right? And right here, Monty Cook gives you the game mastering Saturnine, so breakout text, right? Here's a way to describe it to your players, what's going on. Things like, for example, right here, magic isn't weird to the people of Saturnine. So so people aren't surprised when the characters are walking around, known as Vizile, walking around casting magic. Oh, it's really another detail. The war hangs over the city like a dark cloud that won't ever fully clear. So those blank areas on the map are the residue of this great war. They don't tell you specifically, they do not tell you what happened in the war, whose side you were on, since you don't remember. It doesn't tell you what weapons were used. It doesn't tell you what factions happened. This is where you are able to describe that in your game. Frank says, okay, so fiction. Woo, I thought maybe this was for weirdos or something. No. This, you must have jumped in. This is for tabletop role-playing games. And I purchased the PDF, the electronic version, because the physical one does exist and it's $250. This is $99, and I just wanted to assuage some people or arm people with some knowledge. Like, who wants to buy a PDF role-playing game for 99 bucks? And it's the PDF? Like, what the hell is this about? So I'm here to give some of that information if I can in my rambly, non-professional, hesitated, word, whatever, confusing kind of manner. And I got to page through this real quick. I got to keep my finger on this so you guys can see this. This basically details each of the neighborhoods, gives you some locations, gives you some people to pull the threads on. And right here in the middle, if you've noticed me paging through here, you'll notice that I'm going to page up just a little bit. You'll notice you have yourself the brick house. You see some important locations here. And then right in the middle, you have Marty Black and Edward Zane. And these are NPCs. And like I mentioned before, as a game master, this is pretty much all you need to game master these NPCs. I would write maybe a few bullet points as to their personalities, like what do they want, how do they act, where do they live, and you're done. So here, Marty Black and Edward Zane, they're level 4. They're basically, he gets +1 dodge, so they're level 5 to dodge. They're +1 resist, so they're level 5 to resist like intimidation or coercion or threats or persuasion. And they have +2 knowledge, so they're pretty knowledgeable about where they live. Easy. And then the game master never rolls. So if they attack someone, the players roll their dice, and they have to roll a 4 or better to resist whatever it is. Let's say they're being attacked with a club or a sword or being shot at or something. Also, if the players attack them, they roll, if you understand what I'm saying. So these guys have a knowledge of +2. So using some of the like sights and sounds thing, I'm going to click on here, or NPC appearances, or using the memorable notes, or even the magic flux or whatever, right? If you go back to here, they have +2 knowledge. That means they know, instead of 4, they know level 6 in knowledge about the people and the places and the things that are going on. So they may know a level 6 of type form of magic, or a place to hide, or connections, or something like that. So yeah, that's how you do NPCs in this game. GMs do not roll the dice. The players roll all the dice. And yes, these are all the neighborhoods. There's 17 of them. I believe the book M gives you, look at this. I mean, look at this thing. It's like a floating statue. There's somebody down at the very bottom with a briefcase. Of course, you got to have a briefcase because there's secrets. And what is it, like a park? Are they hanging out? I mean, that's really bizarre, but it's cool. Uh, Great artwork. Reminds me of the artwork. Seems like it was pulled from like concept art for a video game. I can't explain it, but yeah. Uh, and yeah. Thanks, Frank. Coming into the middle of something like this, it's like, who the hell are these people? What are they talking about? But but yeah, River, uh, strange, odd. Talks about, you can have story ideas. So this is extremely external. Go to these places, find these people, explore the area. Some players just want to do that. They're like, hey, I want to make up a character and run around. And of course, they get involved in all kinds of machinations, crime and conspiracies and that kind of thing. Quiet Lake. We will be getting past this pretty soon because we're going to be getting into the very end of this review, and we'll end on this thing unless people really are clamoring for more. The undersling, you got to have some place that's underground, like underworld. So you got to have the undersling and entertainment. This game very much, because he talks about the 1920s as a flavor. So I can imagine a lot of this, it has like little small pistols you carry around with you, wearing fedoras, having monocles and walking canes and suitcases and hiding in shadows and having discussions in the upper balconies of a theater and people having dinner parties and things like that. Are you a spider or an ant? Spiders are solitary creatures. Ants are collective. Are you an ant or a spider? And such. So there's a lot of Monty Cook does these pinkish red breakout boxes to talk about some of the ideas of spiders and ants. And when you see some of the art, you'll see spiders and other insects. I guess you could call them ants, even though to me they don't really look like ants. But what do they represent in the story? And so you could have an NPC that's surrounded by spiders, and that just gives an instant clue to what the players are about. Somebody with an eye where his mouth is. Very strange. Very strange. Fartown is a big area where beginning PCs will come out of Shadow. And, like I said before, Shadow is where we live. Frank says, just realized a friend was a was a flat earther. I'm a little on edge. Oh man. Oh, flat earthers would love this game. That'd be kind of, well, some people would take offense to it, but I think that would be sweet in this game because I'm pretty much sure the city of Saturnine in the world of the actuality is flat. So sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. But the city of Fartown is where the player characters actually take place. There's a place called Zeros. By the way, these are drinks in Zeros. Zeros is a demon. In this world, in the actuality, demons do not necessarily need to be living creatures. Your typical Balrog, demon, flames, pitchfork. They can take on things like buildings. And some of the demons leave the world of the red sun, and they're just like, hey, I know how to collect souls. I'll give them entertainment and a place to have drinks and stuff. And so they have what are some of these drinks? High water. Quote, it's a better choice than hell. Yeah, or white noise. Distilled by monks in the tickling forest by means of a ritual kept secret from the outside world. This drink makes you essentially deaf for a half hour, but for white noise aficionados, the euphoria that comes with it is completely worth it. So, of course, you have to have odd drinks. It's surrealistic. Of course you do. Yeah, you have to. Zeros. And again, there's a poster to go to Zeros. Here's the people of Fartown. Here's a lot more detail of the people that live in Fartown. They are far more mystically oriented. So here's a powerful, what I would consider a powerful character. Wistrin, level 8, +2 to withstand. Withstand basically is physical attacks. +4 to dodge. Wow. So in order to hit this person, the characters need to roll 12 or better. You can't roll 12 or better on a D10 unless you have a lot of modifiers to gather in your venture, which reduces that 12 down. Let's see. +4 resist, +2 knowledge, and goes on with some details. Vislay with many spells, including such effect as improving defenses, dispelling magic, physical attacks, summoning needed items, and enhanced movement, +4 spellcasting. So you as a game master, where it says a Vislay with many spells. So you just picked many spells. What does many spells mean to you? Is 3 many? 5? 12? That's up to you. Including such effects as improving defenses, dispelling magic. Now, of course, you don't even have to pick the actual cards for spells. You can just say, oh, this person is a +4 spellcaster. They have a level 8 spellcasting. Let's go to here. I'm going to do this real quick since let's see, levels of effect. Boom. Level 12. So this person can grant 6 points of armor, inflict 16 points of damage, summon a level 9 creature for rounds, summon a level 8 creature for hours, so on. So that's how you can do magic on the fly as a game master, right? This character is a level 12 caster. You use this chart to come up with some of these effects. Travel through time a significant amount, such as years, right? And so very quickly on the fly, here's your NPC. That's what they have. Except that Rickard says, wait, did you just say the people of Fartown is far more? Yeah, although it doesn't it look like Fart Town? Does anybody else see that? Tell me I'm not the only one that sees Fart Town. Which might be a play on words that was specifically created for that purpose. But anyway, Far Town, yes, is far more. Or Fartmore. Anyway, Fartown is a town that's out of sync with Saturnine and the rest of the world of Indigo, but it is a place where most of the player characters can take place. There's like libraries here and an underworld here, and it's basically like a default like there's the Vancian campus if you want to play Advance where they learn magic. There's the Goetic Hall of Records if you want to be a Goetic and learn that kind of magic. And of course, the Changeries. The Changeries are a place your player characters can go to acquire changes to their character. So you can say, you know what, instead of regular hair, I want to have a head full of flames. I just want to have a big flame high top fade, right? Flame shooting off the top of my head. And you go to a changery to have them change that for you. Maybe as a player character, you're like, I want clear skin, or I want to have my skin removed and hang my skin in the closet in my house. So when I go out, I go out to party or go out to the theater, I'll put my skin on and zip it up the front. But normally I just hang it in my closet. So in a changery, they can do that for you. It's pretty weird, but yes. And of course, here we have spiders. We have people with strange molted skin, and there's a swan in the background, and people talking with each other with drinks, socializing. Is that a person with a book for a head? Yes, it is, and a person fading away. And of course, we have you have to have adversaries, adversaries and factions. So a player character who is a Vancian mage is part of the Vancian order, or the order of Vances, and there's the order of makers and such, and so there's responsibilities you have to them. There's Mara, warden of the Blue Sun, and here she is protecting the dimension of the Blue Sun, so she could either be inside of you or external. So yeah, all this entire book, The Path, is basically the entire setting, and everybody from here's something I would it's really strange. This group is known as the Hindasa. This is an ever-changing organization, including how the word is spelled. Every time you see the word as you read this, that word is spelled differently. So the Hindasa is also spelled Hindasa, and also Handasa, and Handasa, as well as Handasa, and so on, as well as their motivations, such as Handasa, and it's also spelled Hindasa, and just for shits and giggles, I think it's spelled one way, one more. Oh yeah, and here we go, Hindasa as well. Oops, what the hell was that? Oh, got a thing. There's the Church of Midnight. All these are organizations. Basically, how can I confront my players with something, making some choices for them? The Dead, the Cohedron, the Church of Midnight. There's the Deathless Triumvirate, the Third Hand, the Troubadours of the Ancient, the Vespertine. Man, the Zanweir. There's a ton of organizations that will confront the players. Yeah, the OV, the Knights of the Name, Unseen Children as well. And they all, because this is surreal, some of them are doing things like collecting people's memories or gathering items that are pulled from shadow that your character may have. There may even be Saturn is all about the juxtaposition of the mundane and the surreal and making both equally real. That is a difficult, hard thing to do, but that's what the game is about. And of course, they're going to give you down the middle of the pages of this game. Look at that, a key in her eye hole. Ugh. There's that cat again. And then, of course, there's the inhabitants of the actuality. And here is the GM, what I mentioned before, what is given to you as a GM when you want to make up NPCs, right? So unless stated otherwise, use an NPC's level for the following: challenge of interacting with them, challenge of sneaking by them, tricking them, outrunning them, and so on, challenge of striking them with an attack, challenging affecting them with magic, challenge of dodging their physical attacks, challenging resisting or withstanding their magical attacks or effects, and amount of damage their attacks of any kind inflict. So give it a number. That's what the NPC is, and that's it. Now, of course, you modify that up and down based on how specifically you want to make them unique. For example, a level 8 salesperson in a shop probably isn't doing 8 points of damage, but they may control what happens in the shops and places for people to buy things. So maybe they are level 8 to resist being charmed, because they're just like, you can't come in here and steal things, PCs trying to pickpocket everyone. But on the other hand, you can give them specific traits and things. For example, there are people who are known as zealots, Zilats, not zealots, Zealots, right? It's zealots, and not everyone who wields magic is a Vizsla. Those who are born with an affinity for a single magical talent are called zealots. And zealots, rather than learn spells or rituals, take their one ability and hone it to perfection. So honestly, it's just an excuse to make an NPC with one kind of magic, right? It's the Oracle who's a seer with divination magic, and that's all they have. Or it's a grabber with apparition magic that likes to magically make things appear and steal them and make them disappear. Or it's tormentors with pain magic hired by the city to torture criminals to get information out of them, or to torture people to believe in a specific type of religion or something. And then, of course, it talks about game mastering NPCs. You got to have a breakout box for that. This gives you the GM tools you need to shape your NPCs. And here are special abilities or attacks you can give your NPCs. These special abilities do not run the same way that you give to players. Some of these are just literally, there's no die roll. They just have this, right? For For example, here is mind control. Controls the actions of a close being. 2 successes to resist. So this is just ability. You give your NPC mind control, and it's automatic unless the PCs roll their resist, and they need 2 successes to do it, as long as, of course, they are close by, which is a range. So a lot of these abilities, you just give them to your NPCs, maybe for your prep or something. You just give it to them. More or less, you can just do this on the fly if you wish. And then, of course, there are your creatures and the names of those creatures. For example, simple creatures and entities by level: Moonfox, Orb, a Grig, a Psychopomp, a Lucent One, a Swarm Wolf, the Enemy of Time. So, like, for example, down here's the Esser. And the Esser is an angelic sword spirit with feathered wings and an impossibly large sword. And it tells you that it's level 4. They can take up to 4 injuries. Every time they take 4 injuries, they suffer a wound. Or if they take up to 4 injuries, if the next time they take damage and it's mental, they take anguish instead. And it gives you some points for them. So basically, it's what do we call that? Monster manual. It's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll get through this. We're almost done. Thank you for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. Of course, there's what the hell is the name? Whatever. I'm not pronouncing that. Yeah, liquid dreams. Of course, you have to have clocks everywhere. Inhabitants of the actuality. All kinds of creatures they can encounter in the underworld. Rat goblin and a roach goblin. Okay. Roach goblin. It's all right. It's an okay name. But yeah, you insert these, especially into the underworld, into the outer reaches of this game world. There's a wrong cat. A wrong cat. A cat with a spider affinity. Mass of spiders that lives on its flesh imbues it with an immunity to venom and a poisonous bite. That's cute. Oh, belongs to somebody. There is a sun attached to its collar. I do not know which sun symbol that matches. And it looks like this cat has prehensile feet and humanoid hands. So cool. Okay, well, when you're sleeping, that might be cool for it to sneak up on you. Ugh, Moloch the Wrath. And we're almost done. Who is this? Oh, no name. There's no name for you. What are you? Half man, half industrialized world? Maybe tiny people come out of you choking, working in the factory inside of your chest and head. Anyway, thank you for joining me, guys. 2 friggin' hours later, I really appreciate it. Again, of course, this is basically the monster manual. It's everything that's in this game. A lot of the artwork here that is expressed in the artwork that I went through before is here. It gives you some detail about some of the inhabitants that you might encounter. So, some of them have names. Looks like a fallen angel of some sort as well. Mr. Aegon. I know someone that's an Aegon that's about to come soon. Seeping out of the dark, you found much to enjoy in the light. There are pleasures here that surprised you. Food, flesh, despair. They're all so sweet. What you really want, however, is a soul. And so, of course, level 7, got some magic, got some powers, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's barefoot, man. Put some shoes on. Goes with your tuxedo. So, of course, lots of demons. You got to have some named characters. Squad 57B of the Thaw. The Thaw are like they are like enforcers, police force in the city. Squad. There we go. 57B of the Thaw. So they're the ones that when the players get out of hand, they're the ones that do all the have all the problems and stuff. And so it gives you a description of who they are. They're level 6. They have magic defenses. They have a pain touch, a pleasure touch. They are disciplined, organized, and ruthless. And a GM ship suddenly appearing exactly where it would be worse for a foe, even if it should be impossible to be there. So, yep, all kinds of stuff. And we end right there. So I'm going to stop sharing this, come back to you guys. Guys, thank you so much for sticking with me, being part of this. Rickard says, wrong cat is indeed wrong. Rickard said, pronounce it. Let me brutalize you. I can barely pronounce English, man. I ruin everything else. So anyway, this probably most likely is the last review. Just wanted to show you guys what was available in it. This game is not for everyone. I think it is a tour de force of a creation. So I do think it's worth the money in terms of physical value. For $100 for a PDF, the amount of work that went into it, I do think it's worth the money. I do not think this game is for everybody. It's not. It just isn't for everyone's style. It kind of tickles my fancy a little bit, so I am into it. But again, how do I sell that to anybody else, man? So yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm DBJ. Hopefully, I will be running some games in this. I'm going to have to figure out how best to sell this and show a lot of the materials that come with the game. I don't know. I'll figure out something. I know there's the app. Deadman brought up the fact that there's an app. Maybe going back to the Monty Cook website often enough will give me, maybe there'll be some things released there and find out some more digital tools as well. And of course, you shouldn't be doing this. I'm not advocating it, but you can always send the files to someone else. They are huge files if you try to send the entire thing. So maybe just what the players need, you could do that as well. But anyway, I've gone over the 2 hours. I talk too much anyway, but I'm a long form person. I like to dig down into things. Let's get back into the chat before we get out of here. Rickard says, Lovecraft by Dolly. I would be interested in a one-shot just to see how strange it might be. Not sure I would want to live in it. No, it's a little, it comes across whimsical, but it's got a dark bent to it. Lovecraftian themes, like people that are into Cthulhu, like anything Call of Cthulhu-ish, Dolly is absolutely is just like, whoa, I don't know if I can, like you said, a one-shot. I plan on trying to do a one-shot. Maybe, you know what I'll probably do? I'm thinking character creation first. Maybe run a couple of character creations, see if I can get some people who are willing to sit down and do that and do it online, because that's all I have. I don't have anything physical. And then do a couple of one-shots like, okay, these people have characters and they can get into it. I hope I know this is ending after 2 hours, but I hope I brought this up. There's an in-game reason for people being into and out of the game. We today, like me talking now, I'm living in shadow, but this is an illusion. I escaped the actuality. So when I go into the actuality, I become my player character. I become the character sheet, whatever's written down. The excuse in the game is that when things happen to your character, you're drawn back into shadow, which is exactly why player characters can fade in and out of the game at various points of time without explanation. Something happens to you. Maybe you're drawn to your family or your job or an addiction or a psychological problem, or this Salvador Dali meets Lovecraft is just too much. I'm going back to shadow. And so your player character leaves. So walking down the street, your player character just show right back up, join in with the group, and just go on. So that's a conceit that's accepted in the game, and it's kind of cool way to accept it. Deadman the Storyteller says it would definitely be an interesting simul space in Eclipse phase. Ooh, shit, damn. Yeah, because there would. I'm about to say there are no rules. There are rules, but there are no. The physicality aren't rules, so it would be a great simul space. You know, you don't have to make it like Tron. This is a space made up of the subconscious of everyone that's involved in it. So I could see that. Rickard says it has a certain, wait, what did you say? How the hell would that work? Now I kind of want to see that done quality to it. That's what drew me to it. Because part of me, it's more of a challenge for me, like talking with you guys for me, I'm looking at it like, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm truly honest about that. Like, I don't know how this will work, but I'm a half glass full kind of person. I also want to see the crash and burn. Like, I don't care if I screw it up. I'm like, I want to see how it works. Like, how does this, how do we do this? How do we do this in a game? So yes, I'm very much that kind of person. I'm very much like, I don't know, but I'm willing to try, right? I'm willing to stumble, fall on my face. Um, I'm always willing to learn something new. So hell yeah. And just like Deadman, so he's a Deadman is a fan of Eclipse Phase like I am. And I think that would be an excellent simul space, especially if you use this game and don't like go too deep into it. Just use like some die mechanics, make the character creation system a little simpler. So the character creation system could be like, we're only going to use certain character types for AI, and then another character type for hackers, and another character type for military, or whatever, just off the top of my head. And then just, limit the amount of choices so the characters don't get lost in it. But in a way that makes sense for people getting lost in the simul space. So anyway, I kept saying that this is a dream world, Lovecraftian, whatever, but it's not described that way. Shadow is the dream, the actuality is real, but the real world is everything that we think of as a dream. Whatever. Guys, I'm holding you here too long. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, Monday through Friday, next week, we're going to do Game of Thrones characters, some of the major, some of the minor. We're going to steal the hell out of everything there. We're just going to rip what we can, use it for our role-playing games. The week after that, we're going to go Avengers. We're going to go back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. Game of Thrones, Avengers, Game of Thrones, Avengers, and just steal everything we can from those and add them into our games, no matter what game system we're using, no matter what time period. And just pull like, why do people even love these characters? And we're going to take that, reskin it, get rid of the barcodes, put it into our game, use some whiteout. I don't know if anybody out there remembers whiteout. Use some whiteout, write our own name in place, and just say, okay, we're going to include that in our game. Everyone from Tywin to Hodor to Arya, Jon Snow, with his, I don't know, probably 8 wisdom, whatever. We're not making up stats, but we're going to use the concept of those characters and steal them for our games. So yeah, Deadman's, yes, yeah, this week, absolutely, this week, starting Monday, Tywin will, because I have to pick one of my favorites. Tywin is one of my favorites. Yeah, and I think I offended some people Friday with the Black Panther thing. So yeah, some people just, I think, took issue with it, so they jumped off. So yeah. But Deadman Storyteller says they still make whiteout. Yeah, they still make whiteout. Yeah. Oh, the kids got to buy that for school. But anyway, guys, Deadman, thank you so much for always bringing the knowledge. You got to have correct information if you really want to spread things out there. But so that helps me, because I like to jump off the cliffs without the parachutes. Rickard, Frank, who jumped on in, Caius the Glantry, check out Caius's posts in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. If you haven't joined them, please do. Join Critical Hit Publishing group, of which I am a member. And guys, everybody out there, have a great day. I am going to drink my liquid cappuccino. Maybe they can become a sponsor. Yes, have some breakfast and maybe even go back to sleep. Guys, everyone have a great day. I will see thee Monday. Thank you very much.